¿Qué hubo pues parceros? What's up parceros? My name is Zach Morris. I've been living in South America on and off for the past 5 years. I've lived in Colombia, I've lived in Costa Rica, I've lived in Peru, I've lived in Mexico. And yeah, my channel is based on my experiences living in South America and what I'm doing, what I've done, my environment, you know, all that good stuff. I don't believe in limits. That's a big part of my identity. And when I say limits, I'm referring to, like, you know, countries, boundaries, borders, and I also refer to myself. I don't like to limit myself. I think that that's a big reason for why I've been able to do well in YouTube, is because, you know, I didn't just want to teach English, I want to do more than that. And so yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Anyway, this video, I feel like it's kind of like my responsibility to make, because a lot of people in Colombia, when I started, I made a lot of content that was based around Colombia, and a lot of people told me, Zach, thank you so much for making, you know, Colombia sound good to the rest of the world. Thank you for changing the opinion that foreigners have about Colombia. And I felt bad because I didn't really ever reach my own people, you know, gringos, the people from the United States. I wasn't able to make much material for them that they could understand, because my content's in Spanish, and unfortunately people in the United States don't really manage that many languages. They tend to just speak English. Where I'm from, that is. You know, I know that there's definitely multicultural parts in the US that definitely do, but my experience growing up in the US, if you spoke 2 languages, you were a genius. So anywho, I would like to change the opinion that people in the United States have about Colombia, even though people in the United States don't really care too much about places outside the United States. Unfortunately, I would like to change that as well, because South America is lit. Anyway, so before we get off topic any further, I'm making this video to clear up the subject, the misunderstanding that many people in the United States and the rest of the world may have about Colombia and cocaine. And I'm going to talk to you based on my experience of living for a long time in Colombia. I was never, like, you know, passing through. I've spent very little time in hostels. I've always spent time with people in Colombia. That's just the way that I like to travel. I don't like to live in a little gringo bubble, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm talking about, when you go to a 5-star resort in, like, Puerto Rico and you don't even wander off and, like, meet anybody. That's not my style. I like to meet the people. That's what the essence of the place and a culture is about, the people. Yeah, so anyway, having said that, I think it wouldn't be an overstatement for me to say that I met many Colombian people. I have a good idea of what Colombian people are about, and when I say what I'm going to say, it's not made up. It's somewhat scientific. It's based on measurable results, investigations, if you will. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what I know about Colombia and cocaine based on my experience. I've lived in 4 cities in Colombia: Bogotá, Cali, Bucaramanga, and Tunja. All right, so those are, like, varying on the level of, like, I guess, dangerousness. Cali has a kind of bad reputation. Tunja has a really good reputation for it being a really safe place. Either way, I've lived a significant amount of time in all 4 of these cities, and I had spent 4 years in Colombia without ever hearing cocaine. I'd never heard the word. I never heard it mentioned amongst friends. I never heard it mentioned on TV or on anywhere. So it was kind of disappointing to me when I finally did hear cocaine mentioned while I was in Colombia, because the person that was talking about it was a person that was from the United States. We were at a nightclub in Cali, and it was an electric music nightclub, and a big part of the people that were there were from different countries, mostly European or America, and I'm sorry, the United States. Yeah, the dude comes up and he asks the vendor, there's a guy that's a street vendor that's selling cigarettes and stuff like that. He's like, hey man, do you have any cocaine? That is the only experience that I have ever had with cocaine in Colombia. That is to say, at least I've I've communicated with 1,000 Colombians, and I've gotten to know really well, I'd say 100. None of them have ever mentioned cocaine to me. I have gone to farms. I've gone to farms in 3 different parts of Colombia, and none of those places were cultivating coca. So to summarize really quick, why do people from the United States, and I assume other foreign countries, tend to think about cocaine in Colombia? Well, yeah, there's a reason for that. In the 1990s and the 1980s, in the United States, cocaine became a really popular drug. There was a high demand for cocaine. Turns out in Colombia, the growing conditions are perfect for the coca plant, which is the base of the cocaine drug. There was this guy, his name was Pablo Escobar, and he took advantage of this situation. He essentially was like, oh look, those gringos are taking a lot of cocaine, I'm gonna make it possible for them to continue this dangerous and deadly habit. And he did just that. He made a lot of money because he sold a product that was cheap to produce at a very high markup to the United States people. Since then, that has pretty much been the reason why people think about cocaine and Colombia in the same sentence. It makes sense. Colombia is also a very big exporter of coffee because it's cheap to produce in Colombia and you can sell it at a higher price. Now, some things to keep in mind. The Colombian people, the average Colombian people, are not getting rich off of cocaine. Even the coca farmers are not getting rich. They're getting like 6 cents a plant or something like that. So who's getting rich off this? The bad guys, drug dealers. Yes, bad guys do exist in Colombia, just like the people that buy the drugs in the United States. Let's not paint this in any, pretty picture that doesn't exist. There are bad people in Colombia, and not necessarily bad, more like opportunists that live in Colombia that make money off of people that are making an honest living, farmers. There's nothing wrong with manufacturing the coca plant. What's wrong with manufacturing the coca plant is when you convert it into cocaine, and that's what the drug dealers do. And so essentially, it's to say almost no Colombians have any involvement with cocaine. It's not like tons of Colombians are running around rich. No, they're just the cartels, the crime cartels that sell drugs to the United States. So I would like to, just before we end this, I would like to call out the fact that this idea of Colombia and cocaine wouldn't be possible if there wasn't such a high demand from the United States. That is the #1 buyer of cocaine from Colombia, and it continues to be. So keep that in mind. This concept that you have about Colombian people and cocaine, it's not that accurate because it leaves out the fact that the United States are the people that are buying it. If you're gonna think about Colombian cocaine, you need to think about the triangle complete. First off, we got the consumer, and we got the producer, and then the demand, I don't know. Okay, so it's a circle, like we wouldn't have Colombian people making cocaine if we didn't have people in the United States that were like, oh yeah, I love cocaine. So please, don't think of Colombians as drug dealers, because they aren't. Colombian people are normal. They're lawyers, they're doctors, they're musicians, they're artists, they're construction workers, they're farmers. They're more similar than you can imagine to the people in the United States. They're just as happy. They don't need drugs. There aren't Colombians that are running around doing a lot of cocaine. It's possible that Colombian people do cocaine. I'm not saying I wouldn't know. I haven't met any that do. It's just like in the US, there's people that do cocaine, but to have an image about Colombia based on this thing that happened a long time ago that was intricately related to the United States is definitely missing the picture. Like, we don't think about United States citizens as cokeheads, but they're the people that made this Colombian drug popular, right? All right, so just want to clear that up. I've never done cocaine. You shouldn't do cocaine when you go to Colombia because there's a lot better stuff to be doing. And yeah, so that was the video. Hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and holla at your boy. Okay.